Hey guys, today we're taking a quick look at the Visiontek RX560. This is by no means in-depth coverage or even a review. I just thought this GPU was pretty interesting, and it's hard to find information online about it. So first, why did I bother with this card? Well, a while ago I built a retro gaming / emulation PC, and I wanted to upgrade a GPU without spending a ton. But small form factor cases mean you have far less GPU options, and the options you do have often cost more than their larger counterparts. But if you look up recommendations for the best GPU under $100, you'll often see a few recommendations for the GT1030 and the RX550. And yeah, both come in at about $70 used, but if you don't mind waiting a little bit for a listing, you can actually get the 650 for about the same price. And theoretically it should offer significantly better performance, right? Well, we'll talk a little bit more about performance in a bit. Anyway, this is one of the more interesting looking low profile GPUs I've seen. Most of them are fairly basic, but this one actually looks kind of cool. It even features 4 mini DisplayPort connectors, each capable of 4K 60, which is pretty nice, until you remember the RX560 would probably have trouble running even some older games at 1080p. But it's clear this card is designed more for running video displays at a business or something else, so I'm sure it could handle multiple video streams just fine. But that's not to say it can't be used for gaming. It still features full DirectX 12 support, Vulkan 1.3, hardware acceleration for encoding and decoding, and FreeSync. So it should be more than enough for emulation. Alright, let's check this thing out in GPU-Z, and hold on, less than 1,000 shader cores, texture fill rate 65.8, 1500 MHz memory. Yeah, this isn't a standard RX 560. This seems to be the slower RX 560D. A lower powered variant of the already budget GPU. They may not seem that different on paper, but this would explain the FireStrike scores I was getting. Again, not terrible, but I did get beat by some people with overclocked RX 550s. For a second test, I ran Passmark's G3D benchmark, and yeah, this is pretty much what I expect from an RX 560D. A nice step up from the RX 560 and GT1030, even beating the RX 560X, but still noticeably slower than the full card. But it does offer the advantage of drawing less power than the full card as well. Throughout benchmarking, it stayed under 60 watts aside from a few spikes, so it should work well even in some lower powered pre-builds. Alright, so let's test out the 4K 60Hz output to see how far we can push some old games. The 4GB version would have probably been better for PC games, but even for higher quality retro emulation, the 2GB version should be fine. For the upcoming clips, I'll be using Batocera with the output resolution of 4K. The actual render resolution of each will be listed on screen, but my capture card can only record up to 4K 30Hz, so that's what I'll be using for recording. But I'll keep VSync off to ensure the GPU renders all 60 frames. Starting off with N64 at 9x internal resolution, everything looks crisp and clear, but depending on the game, the textures may not hold up as well as you remember, and a higher resolution may make them stand out a bit more. I've noticed some PS1 games have really high quality textures, so the 9x resolution here really makes them look great. And adding 4x MSAA really helps smooth out the edges. Dreamcast will be a bit harder to run. You should be able to set the internal resolution higher than 1080p, but may not get to 4K in all games, especially some weirder ones that have more effects or maybe less optimization than the emulator, but definitely above 1080p should be manageable. But once we firmly move into the GameCube generation, you'll start having to turn things down quite a bit more. Depending on the game, you could probably mix an internal resolution of 1440p with some high quality anti-aliasing, and it should upscale really well to your 4K output resolution. But again, heavier games or games with lots of effects might require turning it down even more. PS2 seems quite a bit less optimized at the moment. The results will vary based on the game you're playing. Games like Tekken 5 will always be hard to run, but even at 4x resolution, some simple games that rely a lot on effects may drop a few frames, but it still looks good overall. Xbox emulation is still a little bit further back than even PS2. I found Ninja Gaiden to run pretty well at 3x, which is 1440p, and it still looks pretty clean. And that's about as far as I go with a GPU like this. If you want to do some tweaking, you could probably push it further or up the games you can already run to higher resolutions, but you probably want a 6-core or higher CPU if you want to do something like PS3 games. They will probably boot, but it won't be the greatest experience. So yeah, overall, this is a much better deal than something like the RX 550 or GT1030 for about the same price, and it has better Linux support than some of the Nvidia cards. It came in really handy for my Batocera build. But is this the best low budget GPU? Maybe if you can find one used. New, these go for around to $180 to $200, and that's just way too much. That's nearing the price of a new GT 1050 Ti, a much better card that would completely mop the floor with this. But if you don't mind waiting around for a used listing, or you know a place that buys old tech, I'd say see if you can find this and give it a shot. It's a pretty good card if you can get it for a good price, which you could pretty much say for anything. But anyway, I still think it's worth checking out. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.